In this GraphicsFlow tutorial, we're going to give you an introduction into the Art Approvals workspace. So to begin, once you've logged into your GraphicsFlow account, you can select Art Approvals from the left-hand navigation, and this is the view that you'll see by default. So let's give you an orientation in terms of the tools, the filters, and the controls that are available in this workspace. Now let's start at the very top. At the very top, you can toggle between open and archived art approvals. So think of an open art approval. You're actively processing it, you're actively collaborating and communicating with your customers, and you're waiting to get approval on all of the different art assets you've added to an art approval. So at the point that you've gotten approval, you've gotten all the commenting, it's brought to a conclusion, then you'll have the ability to make a decision about archiving an art approval. So let me give you a quick point of reference. If you're ready to archive an art approval, which means that you're going to filter it away from this default view and you're going to permanently store it in the archived view. Well, the way you'll do that, notice that there's a little actions option at each of your art approvals. Well, there you'll see an action to archive an art approval. Now, when you make that selection, it's going to remove this art approval from your open view and it's going to move it to the archived view. So point is, you always have the ability to differentiate between open and archived art approvals. So really quick reference point there. Now let's keep making progress here. Let's talk about some of the filters that are available for your art approvals. So by default, you'll always be greeted with your open art approvals and you'll see all of those open art approvals. But you'll notice that you can toggle to not approved, and that will filter all of the art approvals that are not yet approved. And of course, you can differentiate and select approved to see art approvals that are in fact approved in total. So let's say that you have 4 individual clip art assets or graphics that you're presenting to a client that you want approval on, and let's say they approved 3 of the 4. Well, that would not display in approved. So the definition of approved art approvals is every asset that's included in the art approval is approved. So that's a quick way to, again, drill down between open and archived, not approved, and approved. Now, I'm going to call out one other point of reference here that's a really simple visual indicator as to whether an art approval has been approved or not. You'll notice for an art approval that has in fact been approved in full, a label will display. And so again, if I go back to all of the art approvals here, you'll notice a visual indicator on the Xavier Spartans cross country. You'll notice that one in fact is stamped and labeled as approved. Now that's a handy sort of visual indicator, and that might give me reference that I want to go and archive that approved art approval. We've already taken action on it. I can then sort of archive it to remove it from this active view. All right, well, let's continue to make progress here with some additional filters and controls. So the next series of filters and controls are the ability to sort, and you can sort by newest, oldest, the last modified date, alphabetical, and reverse alphabetical order. So you can make decisions about what's relevant. This is a handy way to make a quick distinction and reference and take action once you've filtered. The next series of controls here is the ability to filter by team member. So let's say you've added multiple team members as part of your business, your company. You have the ability to sort of quickly filter and see art approvals that might be owned by various team members. And this is a handy feature in the event that you have a colleague that's on vacation or out of office. You can, of course, drill down and focus on their art approvals and manage those art approvals on their behest. All right, so let's talk about now the controls and really the detail and the information that displays at each individual art approval. Now, we call these individual art approvals that display here in this list, we call these an art approval card. And there's a lot of information that displays here to give you really quick reference and quick insights that will allow you to avoid the necessity to click on one of these art approvals to see all of the detail. Let's talk about that now. So the very first thing that displays, working left to right, is a color icon with the initials that represents that particular art approval. So in this case, starting at the very top, we have Lutzen Summer Camp, so there's LS to represent that particular art approval. Now the next thing you'll see is, of course, the name of the art approval, which you can amend or edit at any time. And right below the name, you'll see the last modified date. So again, a really quick reference point to having a sort of understanding of when this art approval was created, when last action was taken, and that will inform you with some key information. Now moving along to the right, you'll notice that there's a little indicator that will showcase how many comments have been made on this art approval. So I'll give you a good understanding of whether your customers have made any comments, they've interacted in this particular art approval, which might prompt you to reach out to them to get them to collaborate and communicate and take action on approval. Now the next indicator here will showcase how many art files have been approved of how many files are actually in the art approval. So in this case, there's one of two. So 1 files have been approved of a total of 2. So that will again give me context and reference that my client needs to take action and approve the balance of the art content, or maybe they've rejected and we need to make updates or modifications to that rejected file and then communicate back with them. Now the next indicator is the creator. So who originated this art approval, who owns this art approval on your team. And then you'll notice there's a little separator that will showcase the collaborators that have been invited to participate with the art approval. So quick reference, and notice you can hover your mouse over any of those profile icons to see the email address for that particular collaborator. Now the next and final control that's available here is an Actions button. And when I click Actions, I get 3 major features here. I can add a collaborator. So of course, if I click Add Collaborator, I could type in an email address and I can associate a permission, can comment, can approve. You can even remove access. So if you mistakenly invited somebody or if you have to make a change, you can always remove a collaborator. Now I'll call out very quickly, if you add the permission can comment, that means that collaborator can only comment. Maybe they're being invited just to have a share of voice and to add maybe notes and participate at that level. Whereas the top level permission, which is can approve, that person can then approve, reject, and they can also comment. So be mindful of what permission is appropriate depending on your relationship and the person that's responsible ultimately for the order. Now the next thing that's available in this window here is the ability to copy the link, the direct link to the art approval. Now I want to call out something very important. If you're logged into your GraphicsFlow account, and if you copy this link and you paste it into a new browser tab, you're still going to see the admin view. So if you ever want to see what your customers would see in terms of an art approval, make sure to open up a private browsing window or maybe use a separate browser altogether to truly see the end customer view, which is different than the admin art approval view. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this window here. Let's talk about the other 2 options available on the Actions dropdown. We've already mentioned Archive, which again is the ability to take an art approval and archive it. It's never going to be deleted. It'll be permanently stored. You'll have that digital asset and digital record, which you can access at any time. But again, you're removing it from your view. So it's not clouding or creating any sort of barriers or friction. And then the last prompt is the ability to delete. And I'll call out if you choose to delete an art approval, you'll be prompted to ensure that you're acknowledging what happens once you actually delete something. So you actually have to sort of triple verify that you understand that all the links will be inaccessible, all the commenting and history will be lost, and of course any art content that was uploaded to art approvals and not added to my art will be in fact deleted. So make sure to acknowledge that, make certain that you're ready to proceed because that is irreversible. All right, so that is a quick overview of the art approvals workspace. We've talked about the ability to filter that gives you key features to really drill down and focus on the right art approvals at the right time. And then we've talked about some of the information and the details of the display that gives you quick and easy reference to take action on art approvals. The last thing to point out here is if you want to edit an art approval, of course, you just simply click on the art approval card itself, in particular the name of the art approval, and that will open up the art approval details. So you can edit, modify, interact in the art approval. You have all those controls that are available here. And be sure to watch a separate tutorial where we show you everything necessary to create and manage art approvals.